5 o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Trump accuses the DOJ of election interference and a not guilty verdict in the local case of a 4-year-old boy who starved to death. We'll have details, first traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunshine, a high in the low 90s. Tonight's low near 68. Right now, 72 degrees. The U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia, Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in special counsel Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Here's Fox's Kevin Corke with details.
It's obviously going to prompt further claims of election interference, most likely by the former president. That's because, keep in mind, this is just the federal prosecutor's version of the events that happened post-2020 election in that period leading up to the Capitol riot on January the 6th. Now, its release comes by way of federal trial judge Tanya Chutkan. Her decision coming months after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that former presidents enjoy a great deal of immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts committed while in office. The court had ordered the judge to go over all the charges against Mr. Trump to determine whether he had immunity.
And the Trump campaign calls the move election interference. Tuesday's vice presidential debate drew in 43 million viewers. Nielsen figures show viewers tuned in across 15 different networks to watch the debate hosted by CBS. The age group with the largest viewership was those over the age of 55. CBS poll found that 42% of respondents thought Vance won the debate. Former President Trump, meantime, returns to the swing state of Michigan today. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
Former President Trump is set to rally supporters at Saginaw Valley State University. The event marks the GOP presidential nominee's 11th visit to the crucial battleground state this year, with just 33 days until Election Day. His running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, campaigning in Michigan yesterday after his debate against Democratic vice presidential nominee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Vice President Kamala Harris recently visiting the Detroit area for a campaign event hosted by Oprah Winfrey. The vice president assessing Hurricane Helene's devastation, making a stop in Georgia, and she's expected to travel to North Carolina in the coming days. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
The death toll has risen to at least 190 in the southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene and its remnants swept through the region. North Carolina Senator Ted Budd says private citizens are stepping up.
I saw a group the other day, Operation Airdrop. Private citizens with small airplanes, people who spent their life savings to make the dream come true and be able to fly a small helicopter, are risking themselves, bringing their own personal equipment here and doing rescues.
Speaking from Raleigh, North Carolina, President Biden said politics should not divide Americans seeking help.
In a moment like this, we put politics aside. At least we should put it all aside. We have here. There are no Democrats or Republicans, only Americans. And our job is to help as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, and as thoroughly as we can.
After surveying damage in North Carolina yesterday, Biden will head to Florida and Georgia today, which were also hit by Hurricane Helene. Many consumers are apparently panic buying goods in the wake of the port strike on the East and Gulf Coast. Here's Fox's Chris DeMeo.
The strike has shut down 36 ports on the East and Gulf Coasts. Half of all U.S. ocean imports flow through these ports, which means consumers may face higher prices and shortages for certain items. But experts say the strike won't affect product lines significantly as it did during COVID when entire production lines were shut down. A Costco store in Arlington, Virginia, that usually is stocked to the ceiling with paper towels and toilet paper, still had its supply at a bit lower than usual level. President Biden reportedly said that a strike would have a limited impact on consumers. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
Well, the state of Texas has spent more than $11 billion on border security, and officials in the governor's office say it's worth every penny. Border czar Mike Banks says that illegal immigration is down to a trickle.
By no means am I waving a victory flag saying we've secured the border. What I'm saying is the border in the state of Texas is much more secure than it was 2 years ago.
He credits the 100 miles of razor wire as well as the Texas border wall, all of which was paid for by taxpayers. After about 7 hours of deliberation, a Bexar County jury found Brandon Cervera not guilty in the starvation death of his 4-year-old son, Benji. In August of 2021, Benji Cervera was found unresponsive and was taken to a hospital. A nurse alerted police to the boy's condition as he was extremely underweight with multiple bruises. Benji's stepmother, 25-year-old Miranda Casares, was found guilty and sentenced to 25 years in prison after being convicted of causing serious bodily harm to Benji, resulting in his death. Well, the Houston Astros' hopes for a deep 2024 postseason run are now over. Yesterday, Houston fell in a 5-2 defeat to the Detroit Tigers in Game 2 of the AL Wildcard Series. Here's Astros third baseman Alex Bregman.
Been fortunate to win a lot here over the last 9 years, and it's been an honor to play in front of these fans and compete for the city.
Despite Houston's postseason run cut short, the Astros wrapped up their regular season with their 4th consecutive American League West title. It is 5:06, news at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy, traffic and weather coming up.
Good morning, everybody. Sam, Echo, Travis, Rooster, Kemper. Good to see everybody. Mr. T is out, and he actually has a vacation. He's got a vacation starting tomorrow. So he's kind of been out ill, and now that's going to, sadly, hopefully he's going to be able to enjoy his vacation and get back to normal. But that's going to overlap into his vacation now to some extent. So therefore, no Mr. T until next Thursday, a week from today, because his vacation is Friday and then next week, Monday through Wednesday. So there is that. Yeah, the Astros loss hurt. They scored a run and went up and looked good there for a bit. And then was that like a 3-run RBI in the 7th for Detroit that did them in? What's really sad is both those games were winnable by the Astros had they not, had a couple of innings that just went south on them. The first one, bottom of the 9th, they could have won it in game 1. And the second one, they had the lead late and then just gave up that horrible inning where Detroit scored all those runs. Thank you, Sam. It's the wonder drug that works wonders. Welcome into this beautiful day, Thursday. That's Friday Eve, October 3rd, 2024. 21 days until Opelka Con. That's going to be at La Hacienda de los Barrios. More information to come your way. 28 days until Halloween, 33 days until the 2024 election. What could possibly go wrong? 56 days until Thanksgiving and 83 days until Christmas. Charity McCurdy, how are you on this Friday Eve?
Christmas. I don't need that kind of pressure, Chris. I'm already trying to develop my Christmas wish list and shopping list for the kids. And then you throw in this dock worker strike, and then you hear about the panic buying. And I'm like, do I need to like buy everything this week just to make sure? I mean, it's almost contagious, this panic buying.
And what scares me, and I brought this up early in the week, Charity, the one thing I can't live without is toilet paper. And there is a run on toilet paper for no reason. Toilet paper doesn't come from the docks. It's manufactured domestically. But nonetheless, people are freaking out. So they're panic buying toilet paper.
Have we learned nothing from 2020 to 2023? I mean, come on, this is self-inflicted. Let's get it together. Let's calm down.
Well, and it's making me think I need some items from H-E-B after the show today. I'm going to go to H-E-B. Now, do I buy extra toilet? I'm not going to panic buy and fill up my cart, but what if this ridiculous run on toilet paper gets real in San Antonio and 4 days from now there's no toilet paper on the shelves? Should I get an extra package or should I be true to what I know is true, that there's no reason for a run on toilet paper?
Well, I guarantee the good folks at H-E-B are monitoring the situation. And if it gets out of hand, they're going to start placing signage that limits the amount you can purchase per product. So
yeah, they did that in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. We'll talk more about that. In fact, we've got some questions for our listeners about the panic buying that is already beginning across the country due to that dock workers strike. Mr. T out again today. He's under the weather, and then he begins a vacation tomorrow. So that's a little funky. We'll talk about that. First, though, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together. Weather Channel forecast, mostly sunny today, high in the low 90s, overnight low in the upper 60s. Sunny tomorrow with a high in the mid 90s. Saturday, partly cloudy with a high in the low 90s. Right now, 61 in Kerrville, 70 in New Braunfels. It is clear, 72 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's first news, she's Charity McCurdy. Andrew Zimmel flying the Millennium Falcon solo this morning, or at least at the moment, wearing his Spurs retro Fiesta colors cap. Andrew also runs our YouTube stream. If you want to watch the show on YouTube, it's a lot of fun because there's some very cool people in the chat. You can chat with them. We chat with you throughout the morning as well. I see Echo. I see Kemper. I see Sam, Tim from the Philippines. Rooster is in there. They're very friendly, and you can be part of it if you would like. YouTube, look for 1200 WOAI. Charity, I mentioned Mr. T, who's been under the weather this week, and we hope he's feeling better, but his scheduled vacation starts tomorrow. He was taking Friday, the weekend, then next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. So our hope now is that he will be fully healthy for his vacation. Nothing like scheduling a vacation and not feeling good for it.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but at the same time, to parlay sick days and then hopefully he's starting to feel better and look at the calendar, it's vacation time. So, this is an extended time away from work and, everyone can use a refresher, away from work just to kind of separate yourself from the everyday pressures of radio. So there, I think that it's a win-win for T. I hope he comes back 200%, and I'm sure he will.
Yeah, he will be tanned, rested, refreshed, and raring to go. So probably a week from today, Mr. T will be back. Charlie Parker going to join us a little bit later this morning. You'll hear from him in the next hour as well. With those were the days. And coming up, we're going to talk a little more about this crazy phenomenon of panic buying that is apparently beginning across the country as a result of this dock workers strike. We'll have all the big stories throughout the morning as well. Special counsel Jack Smith makes a new filing in the Trump case, and Israel plotting a response against Iran. We'll bring you the latest on that as well. WOAI News Time, 5:15. Hey, Jacob, I just read the names I saw on the chat at the time. So I didn't mean to, I know you're cool. Didn't mean to freeze you out, man. Yeah, Kemper, us too. Hopefully he's better. He did say, I didn't get a text from him yesterday, but the day before, he did say late in the day that he was feeling better, but still not, ready to come into work. So hopefully that all works out. Thank goodness for coffee. Steve DiRocco, the original Rock, driving to New Orleans this morning. Rocket Man, drive very safely. Watch out for those Louisiana police officers. I hear that they like to confiscate vehicles. I've never experienced that, but that's what I've heard. So Steve DiRocco, the original Rock, the human element, co-founder of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club, his abstention from drinking is about to be tested. We know it's going away. He goes to New Orleans to eat and drink, and not necessarily in that order. Yeah, Kemper, I was in both of those games. There were moments of great optimism for the Astros. And just at the wrong time, things fell apart. Very sad. And we're so used to them going, I forget what year they cited yesterday. They have been in the American League Championship game. I think the last year they weren't in it was 2016. So, I know we're spoiled as Astros fans, but still hurts. Thanks for the heads up. Appreciate it. Yeah, Rock, keep me posted, man. Let me know your progress. Let me know when you get to New Orleans. And let me know if you need bail money. We can wire you bail money. Rooster, I didn't see your idea. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together. And we got some questions for you about panic buying. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
The death toll has risen to at least 190 in the southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene. New details are being released related to former President Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election and a not guilty verdict for the father of a little boy who starved to death. We'll have details right now, traffic and weather.
Your Weather Channel 3-day forecast: mostly sunny today, high in the low 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s and low 70s. Sunny tomorrow, high in the mid 90s. Saturday, partly cloudy with a high in the low 90s. Right now, 70 in Von Army, 71 at Randolph Air Force Base. It is clear. 72 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's first news on a Friday eve. Yes, I know it's Thursday, but it's a Friday eve as far as I'm concerned. Charity, you played some Alex Bregman audio in the newscast at the top of the hour, and he talked about how it's been an honor for him to play before those fans in Houston as the Astros were eliminated yesterday by the Detroit Tigers in the wild card series. He is a free agent. I think you brought that up yesterday on the show. Jose Altuve said after the game he hopes the Astros will pay him the money to stay in Houston, but a lot of analysts saying there's some other Major League Baseball team is going to throw a lot of money at Alex Bregman. Odds are he has played his last game as a Houston Astro.
Yeah, and then you're also worried about pitcher Justin Verlander. What's ahead for him? Isn't he set to test the free agency?
Yes.
Now that the offseason's beginning for them, there's a lot of question marks for the future of the Astros.
And worse, you lose Kate Upton if you're the city of Houston. You lose his wife.
There is that.
Supermodel
Yes.
Kate Upton. That's going to lower the eye candy quotient in the entire city of Houston by at least half a point.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, she is. All right. So, Charity, it's crazy. We've been talking about this dock workers strike. It's day number 3 now. And a lot of items like bananas, 75% of the American banana supply does come through the ports. So if you love bananas, you might want to enjoy some right now because they may go away for a while. But toilet paper, 90% of toilet paper in the United States comes domestically. It's produced here or Canada or Mexico. It doesn't come through the docks or the ports. Yet Costco and Walmart across the country, and Charity, you were at a Costco recently, reporting a run on toilet paper across America.
Unbelievable. Again, misinformation. You wonder where people are getting their news from social media. I just think panic ensues and it's contagious. If you see one person filling up their cart or 2 carts with toilet paper and everything you can think of, chances are you're going to be like, what am I missing here? If they're taking everything, maybe I need to stock up while I can before everything's gone. It's unfortunate, but there's really nothing you can do to stop it unless, management, HEB steps in, puts up that signage that limits, how much you can purchase of each product.
And I'm going to go to HEB after the show today. And again, my dilemma is I know there is no reason to get extra toilet paper. However, what if all these yahoos are in San Antonio are hoarding their toilet paper? I'm just wondering, do I get an extra package? There's one thing I can't live without, Charity, and that's toilet paper.
Well, the good news, Chris, is it is fall and the leaves will begin to fall on the ground. So that's your backup plan B, Go
Get
with
back
Mother
to nature.
Yeah.
Get back to nature. All right, so Charity, we got a couple of questions for the people. One, are you concerned about this dock worker strike? Are you concerned about, things that you care about and need not being available because of the dock worker strike? And if you were going to panic buy something, what would it be? Charity, I would panic buy beer chips and salsa. First on my list, I can't live without toilet paper. Second on the list, beer, then chips and salsa.
Yeah, I guess I would probably want to make sure I had plenty of toilet paper as well. I would panic buy the non-perishables, the mac and cheese for the kids, their little cereal bars, cereal as well, and throw in some sangria for me just to take the edge off of all the stress.
Yes. Mama needs to have the edge taken off. So all right, we want to know your thoughts on this dock worker strike, on items going away. Are you concerned? And if you did panic buy, what would you panic buy? Charity, how do they tell us that?
The free iHeartRadio app, you launch it, search 1200 WOAI, look for that red circle, that's the talkback button, hit it, 30 seconds to sound off.
Coming up, special counsel Jack Smith just won't go away. Another filing involving former President Donald Trump. We'll talk about that. Charity with everything you need to know at the bottom of the hour. WOAI News Time 526. Yeah, Rooster, I can't always scroll up, and I usually don't, because if I miss it, because we're doing so many other things, if I miss it, I miss it. I will try scrolling up. So yeah, I don't always see, because I didn't even see Matt Quest 822 was in here. I would have said hello. So I'm scrolling up. Rooster says I can take a day off from work and go fill in for Tim. All right, maybe we'll do that, Rooster. If you want to come in, Rooster, let's discuss that. Got to run that by the boss, but I'm sure we'd enjoy it. We know you're very, very good on the talkbacks, so that could be cool. So that I do like your idea. Oh, and now I see you did type it right under when I said retype. Okay. Early in the morning, man. Coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Tommy Miller, good morning. Louie, good morning. Louie. Louie. Thank you very much. This is why I don't sing often in public. I can empty out a karaoke bar in about 35 seconds. Okay, I need to send a text to Charity and to Andrew Zimmel on my Magic Keyboard endorsed by Magic Johnson. Because homie doesn't like texting with his thumbs. Thank you, Louie. I text with my Magic Keyboard. Powered by Magic Dust. Remember Cheech and Chong? Santa Claus and his old lady? Magic Dust. Thank you very much. It's a Magic Keyboard. You would think Magic Dust would be involved. Oh, my battery. I need to charge my phone. I have just learned. You know, we should, Rooster, and it probably wouldn't happen until after the election, but I do like the idea of a guest host, you know, hang it maybe on a Friday. Doesn't have to be the whole show. Maybe, or maybe whole show on a Friday. I don't know. Or maybe, you know, because when Randy Fridays are Fridays with Beamer. So maybe we do it on another day. Well, I'm looking at HEB, we regularly prepare for potential supply chain situations. We do not anticipate any customer impact. Fox SA is posted, they just cut away from it, a statement from HEB on the run on toilet paper. The run on toilet paper. See, when Randy's here on a Friday, I think that's too many people. And we want to obviously focus on Randy. He is the most trusted man in San Antonio. He is eye candy. Chicks dig him. So I don't want to take away from the Randy Beamer experience. Here's Charity.
.5:30 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, a new filing released in Trump's election interference case, and the death toll from Helene continues to grow. We'll have details for traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunshine, a high near 93. Tonight's low in the upper 60s. Right now, 72 degrees. U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia, Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in Special Counsel Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Fox's Kevin Cork has details.
Smith argues that the former president's efforts to block the certification of the 2020 election were private acts, not official, and therefore not deserving of presidential immunity. Quote, working with a team of private co-conspirators, the defendant, Mr. Trump, acted as a candidate when he pursued multiple criminal means to disrupt through fraud and deceit the government function by which votes are collected and counted, a function in which the defendant, as president, had no official role. Now, Smith further suggested the former president, knowing that his scheme to coerce then Vice President Pence to do his bidding was over, instead encouraged a mob to react.
Meantime, Trump is expected to campaign in Michigan today after making a quiet stop in Houston for a campaign fundraiser. The Houston Chronicle reports the former president attended a private fundraiser at Tillman Fertitta's Post Oak Hotel yesterday. The event was hosted by some of Texas's biggest Republican donors, including Fertitta, Hillcorp Energy Company founder Jeff Hildebrand, and healthcare executive Clive Fields. The fundraiser was expected to raise over $5 million. Former President Trump now says he'd veto a federal abortion ban in his latest statement on the issue. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern.
The former president committed for the first time to blocking any federal legislation prohibiting abortion in a social media post Tuesday night. Former President Trump writes he does not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it because it's up to the states to decide based on the will of their voters. He has praised the landmark ruling from the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. 3 of the justices who joined that majority opinion were nominated by former President Trump. Polls have consistently shown a majority of voters prefer Vice President Harris on the issue of abortion access. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Meantime, Melania is coming out in support of reproductive rights. In her new memoir, Melania, the former First Lady, says she is a passionate supporter of a woman's right to control her own body, including the right to abortion. The death toll has risen to at least 190 in the Southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene and its remnants swept through the region. Areas of North Carolina have been especially hit hard by floods, with the majority of fatalities counted there and property damage estimated to be in the billions. After surveying damage in the region yesterday, President Biden will head to Georgia and Florida today. Well, it's like the pandemic all over again. The port strike is prompting panic buying in Texas grocery stores. Eric Lycum has details.
The port strike is on the east and Gulf Coast, but not the west coast. Nevertheless, shoppers are finding things like toilet paper wiped off shelves due to panic buyers. CC Mora tells News 4.
So we're going to be stocking up on toilet paper, obviously, meds. We're going to be stocking up on laundry detergent. What else? Paper towels.
Most consumer paper products are domestically produced. HEB issued a statement saying in part, quote, "We do not anticipate any customer impact from the port strike at this time. Our team has been working with suppliers for weeks to serve Texans. Most products are not impacted by this strike." Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
And President Biden could invoke a 1947 law known as the Taft-Hartley Act as a way to suspend the strike. The president has said, however, that he will not intervene in the strike. Gun control groups in Texas are fighting an uphill battle against the state legislature that has removed just about every restriction to packing heat, but that's not stopping them from asking lawmakers to crack down on online sales, many of which they say are headed south of the border.
ATF traces firearms recovered from crime scenes in Mexico and has determined that approximately 70% of those traced over a 5-year period were trafficked to Mexico from the United States.
Aaron Erb with the Giffords Law Center says the cartels use guns that are trafficked in from Texas to smuggle fentanyl across the border. Last session, the Texas House passed a bill that would have made it a felony to buy a gun for someone who's prohibited. Activists want that reintroduced this session, which starts in January. Well, they just set 2 Guinness World Records. They just appeared on America's Got Talent. And starting tonight, their drones will light up the skies above the State Fair of Texas. Austin York reports.
Capel-based Sky Elements uses thousands of drones to create light shows that make characters, shapes, even logos for special events. They just recently finished third in the finals of America's Got Talent with a July 4th patriotic drone show. They set Guinness records with 1,500 drones, marking the largest and tallest drone show ever witnessed in Texas at 700 feet in the air. But starting tonight through Sunday night, they will be lighting up the skies near Big Tex. You can bet he will make an appearance in the night skies. All 4 shows begin at around 8:25.
It is 5:37 now with breaking crime news from around the country. Here's Nancy Grace. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, to check of your money and the world of business, we say good morning to Ed Corey live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's first news, Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman, under the weather and about to go on vacation. He'll join us next week. EJ Pacheco and Andrew Zimmel doing the heavy lifting, flying the Millennium Falcon. Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days at 6:48, and he'll join us in studio a little bit later as well. I'm Chris Duell. Coming up, flashback, and we'll hear from you on panic buying that is setting in, often for no reason. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Charity McCurdy, you've been reporting on it. Special Counsel Jack Smith still going after former President Donald Trump, trying to outline things he does not believe fall under immunity for a sitting president, as ruled over the summer by the Supreme Court. A legal brief that was 165 pages long documents this. It has been released, and it talks about things the president did, in the opinion of Jack Smith, to subvert the 2020 election that does not fall under official business of the president, at least in the opinion of Jack Smith.
Yeah, and some of these new details in this court filing that was released include details of the former president's frayed relationship with the former Vice President Mike Pence, some of Trump's phone usage on January 6th of 2021, and conversations with family members and others when Trump was fighting his loss to President Biden. So, of course, former President Trump took to True Social, claimed this is election interference, questioned the timing of this, coming off the VP debate in which Trump claimed Vance clearly won. And he talked about, the fact that there's kind of a 60-day rule prior to the election where the Department of Justice is supposed to hold off on any major actions and cases that could potentially impact elections during those 60 days leading up to Election Day. It's kind of an unwritten policy, but it seems they are bucking tradition with this release.
Yeah, and as I recall, James Comey kind of bucked tradition vis-a-vis Hillary Clinton in 2016 regarding that tradition. Speaking of this, we will hear from Donald Trump on this issue at 7:10 on our segment called Wait Till You Hear This. And I still wonder, though, I wonder if voters and Americans in general are desensitized to this. They've heard about this case for so long. Some believe, yes, this is important. Others believe it's a political witch hunt. And I just don't know if this moves the needle politically. What do you think?
Well, considering the case is not going to go to trial before the election, I don't think it has any impact on the election whatsoever. I think for the most part, those who support former President Trump are going to stand by their man. And for those key voters in those battleground states, I think they're probably close to deciding at this point. I mean, how many days are we? 33?
33.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't made up your mind already, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. Unless somebody went online and read the 165-page document and it swayed them. But I just don't think there's anybody out there, or if there are very few people out there who are that zealous to learn more new information in this case. We will continue to talk about it. As I mentioned, we'll get the reaction from former President Trump at 7:10. We'll listen in as he spoke with News Nation last night in Houston when he was at that Tillman Fertitta fundraiser that we've been reporting on, that Charity's been reporting on. Coming up, flashback. We will go back in time, try to figure out what year we land in. Then we're going to hear from you, your talkbacks on this dock workers strike and a run on products, including toilet paper. We'll get into that. What would you panic buy if you chose to panic buy? That's one of the questions we ask you. WOAI News Time, 5:45. Bob Beavers, welcome in. Connie, welcome. I see Echo, Bob, Tommy, Connie, Tim, Kemper, Echo. Cool. We've got 3 talkbacks currently. One from RK, one from Stephen from Lytle, and one from Rooster. Yeah, Bob, I agree with you. If you're a Trump supporter, you certainly are tired of this. That's a good question, Travis. It is time to go back in time, but what year will we land in? See if you can figure it out. We'll try to figure it out. Let's play flashback. Ding. Charity, I do believe those anthrax attacks came in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks in October of 2001. You too?
Yes.
Okay, we say 2001. Let's find out. What a surreal time that was, huh, Charity? Right after 9/11 and for the next several months.
Definitely.
And for a brief moment, Americans came together and patriotism was everywhere. American flags were everywhere and people of all political stripes seemed to be getting along, but that didn't last very long.
Sadly.
Charity, what else are you working on?
New details have been unveiled in Donald Trump's election interference case. The strike by U.S. dock workers appears to be prompting some panic buying, and the postseason is over for the Houston Astros. We'll have more right now, traffic and weather.
Weather Channel forecast mostly sunny today, high in the low 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s. Sunny tomorrow, high in the mid 90s. Saturday, partly cloudy with a high in the low 90s. Right now, 71 at Woodlawn Lake, 69 at Buc-ee's in Luling. It is clear, 72 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's First News. With that dock workers strike across America, including locations such as Costco and Walmart, there is panic buying going on. And one of the more peculiar items that people are panic buying is toilet paper. There's a run on toilet paper for no reason. 90% of toilet paper in America is produced in America and Canada and Mexico. Doesn't come through the docks. There's no reason for a run on it. And Charity, we heard the report, I think it was from Eric Lycum in your newscast. HEB has already released a statement saying, all is well. We anticipated this. There's no reason. We don't see a problem here at HEB. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Everybody chill the hell out. HEB didn't say that. I'm saying that.
And you would think people would listen to that. That's where most people shop is HEB, and most of their products are not impacted by the strike. But no, it only takes one person filling up one cart or two, and then it just catches on. Everyone feels the need to do it because they don't want to be without their favorite items.
Now, if I worked in PR for HEB, I would release a statement that said, yes, we have no bananas. We have no bananas today. I wonder, because apparently, 90% of bananas in America come through the ports. So bananas could be in jeopardy.
And that's a big item in my household. I make these protein shakes that my kids love. And we use banana to kind of give it a little sweet flavor. So we go through a lot of bananas and over the course of a week. I know they sell frozen banana slices. I'm sure those are going to be gone by the time I get to the HEB to see if there's anything available. But come on, stop it.
Yeah. Maybe later in the show, we'll play the song, Yes, We Have No Bananas. But right now, we're going to hear from you. We've been asking you on the Talkback feature of the free iHeartRadio app, your thoughts on this dock worker strike and how it could affect lots of things from cars to produce and more. And if you were going to panic buy, what would you panic buy? Charity, how do they talk to us?
The free iHeartRadio app, when you get it, launch it, search 1200 WOAI, look for that red circle at the top right corner of your screen. You hit it, 30 seconds.
And one of our favorites is RK. Let's listen to RK. See, RK doing a public service there.
Yeah, sounds uncomfortable.
If you're going to eat half-rotten bananas, a little extra toilet paper, not a bad idea. Thank you, RK. That's news we can use on 1200 WOAI. Our favorite teacher is Stephen from Lytle. Here he is. Very nice. And Stephen has told us previously, Charity, he is a big classical music aficionado. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, whatever brings you sanity until this is all over.
Well, he is another one of they're all our favorites so far this morning. And here's another one. Here is Rooster. Thank you, Rooster, for being so descriptive. We do accept toilet paper as a term.
Oh, good.
All righty then. All right, lots more coming up. Charity has everything you need to know at the top of the hour. We will also bring you all the morning's big stories. She's going to bring them to you. We're going to talk about them as well, including Israel getting ready for its response attack against Iran. That and more coming up. WOAI News Time, 5:57. Very nice, Rooster. We just played your talk back. Sorry you couldn't hear it on YouTube. So anyway, Travis, I was going to say a couple things. I'm wearing my San Antonio Wings t-shirt. In 1975, and as you know, Steve Duraco and I go way back, we both sold programs at Alamo Stadium at San Antonio Wings games, quarterback by Johnny Walton, running back Billy Sadler. Trying to think of any other Wings players I remember. Anyway, I bought this shirt. It's a throwback. I always liked that logo and their helmets. That was a pretty cool logo, and the helmets were very cool for the San Antonio Wings. And for those of you who don't know, they were called the Wings to honor the Air Force bases and San Antonio's aviation history, military aviation history, which even goes back to Fort Sam Houston, where the first military flight, I think it was Falloy was the guy's name. The first ever military airplane flight was made at Fort Sam Houston. I used to know that. It was part of my required knowledge at the Air Force Academy a million years ago. But so I bought this maybe 5 years ago on Amazon. Here's Charity.
At 6 o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Trump accuses the DOJ of election interference and a not guilty verdict in the case of a 4-year-old boy who starved to death. We'll have details. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunny, a high in the low 90s. Tonight's low in the upper 60s. Right now, 72 degrees. U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia, Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in Special Counsel Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Fox's Kevin Cork has more.
It's obviously going to prompt further claims of election interference, most likely by the former president. That's because, keep in mind, this is just the federal prosecutor's version of the events that happened post-2020 election in that period leading up to the Capitol riot on January the 6th. Now, its release comes by way of federal trial judge Tanya Chutkan. Her decision coming months after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that former presidents enjoy a great deal of immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts committed while in office. The court had ordered the judge to go over all the charges against Mr. Trump to determine whether he had immunity.
And the Trump campaign calls the move election interference. Tuesday's vice presidential debate drew in 43 million viewers. Nielsen figures show viewers tuned in across 15 different networks to watch the debate hosted by CBS. The age group with the largest viewership was those over the age of 55. A CBS poll found 42% of respondents thought Vance won the debate. Former President Trump returns to the swing state of Michigan today. Fox's Kristen Goodwin has details.
Former President Trump is set to rally supporters at Saginaw Valley State University. The event marks the GOP presidential nominee's 11th visit to the crucial battleground state this year, with just 33 days until Election Day. His running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, campaigning in Michigan yesterday after his debate against Democratic vice presidential nominee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Vice President Kamala Harris recently visiting the Detroit area for a campaign event hosted by Oprah Winfrey. The vice president assessing Hurricane Helene's devastation, making a stop in Georgia, and she's expected to travel to North Carolina in the coming days. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Well, the death toll has risen to at least 190 in the southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene and its remnants swept through the region. North Carolina Senator Ted Budd says private citizens are stepping up to help.
I saw a group the other day, Operation Airdrop, private citizens with small airplanes, people who spent their life savings to make the dream come true and be able to fly a small helicopter, are risking themselves, bringing their own personal equipment here and doing rescues.
Speaking from Raleigh, North Carolina, President Biden said politics should not divide Americans seeking help.
In a moment like this, we put politics aside. At least we should put it all aside. We have here. There are no Democrats or Republicans, only Americans. And our job is to help as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, and as thoroughly as we can.
After surveying damage in North Carolina yesterday, the president will head to Florida and Georgia today, which were also hit by the remnants of Hurricane Helene. Many consumers are apparently panic buying goods in the wake of the port strike on the east and Gulf coasts. Here's Fox's Chris DeMeo.
The strike has shut down 36 ports on the east and Gulf coasts. Half of all U.S. ocean imports flow through these ports, which means consumers may face higher prices and shortages for certain items. But experts say the strike won't affect product lines significantly as it did during COVID when entire production lines were shut down. A Costco store in Arlington, Virginia, that usually is stocked to the ceiling with paper towels and toilet paper, still had its supply at a bit lower than usual level. President Biden reportedly said that a strike would have a limited impact on consumers. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
A San Antonio jury deciding the guilt of a father who was accused of starving his little boy to death reached a verdict after 7 days of testimony and 7 hours of deliberating.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Brandon Cervera, not guilty.
The jury acquitted Brandon Cervera in the death of his 4-year-old son, Benji. His stepmother, 25-year-old Miranda Casares, was convicted of serious bodily harm causing death to Benji and is serving a 25-year prison sentence. In August of 2021, Benji was found unresponsive and hospitalized. Staff there alerted police to the boy's condition. Well, Israel announced the death of 3 senior members of Hamas. Here's Fox's Jonathan Savage.
The Israeli military says Rawi Mushta was head of the Hamas government in Gaza and that he and 2 security commanders were killed in airstrikes 3 months ago. The Israeli Defense Forces say they were hiding in an underground compound in northern Gaza when they died, but that Hamas didn't make this public to prevent a loss of morale. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard say Israel has killed one of its consultants working in Syria. Majid Davani suffered injuries in an airstrike on Damascus on Monday. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
The Bexar County Sheriff's Office says a dog shot by a deputy on the northeast side earlier this week had been in trouble before. A sheriff's report says a deputy was called out to Lunar Way on the northeast side Tuesday night about a 3-year-old boy who had been bitten by a dog outside his grandparents' home. The grandparents said they had just walked outside the home when 2 dogs charged at them and one bit the child. The report says the deputy used a taser to subdue the dog, but then had to use his gun when it charged him. The sheriff's office says the same dog was involved in an incident last year. Well, the Houston Astros' hopes for a deep postseason run are now over. Yesterday, Houston fell in a 5-2 defeat to the Detroit Tigers in Game 2 of the AL Wildcard Series. Here's Astros third baseman Alex Bregman.
Been fortunate to win a lot here over the last 9 years, and it's been an honor to play in front of these fans and compete for the city.
And despite Houston's postseason run cut short, the Astros wrapped up their regular season with their 4th consecutive American League West title. It is 6:06, news at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's first news as we proceed through the 6 o'clock hour. Lots coming at you. Charlie Parker going to join us with Those Were the Days coming up at 6:40. We're continuing to ask you, what would you panic buy? There is panic buying going on across the country, some of it unnecessary, such as toilet paper. All this in response to the dock workers strike, which has moved into day 3. And coming up, the world is waiting, and certainly Iran is waiting on Israel's response to that massive missile attack that Iran launched against Israel a couple of nights ago. We'll get into that coming right up. But first, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together. Your Weather Channel forecast. Today, mostly sunny, high in the low 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s. Sunny tomorrow with a high in the mid 90s, partly cloudy tomorrow, high in the low 90s. Right now, 71 at SeaWorld, 73 at Freeman Coliseum. It is clear, 72 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's first news. E.J. Pacheco and Andrew Zimmel flying the Millennium Falcon. Andrew Zimmel is manning that YouTube stream. If you want to watch the show, you can go to YouTube and do that. There's a live chat that goes on in there from our viewers. We jump into that chat as well and chat with you throughout the morning. Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, under the weather and about to go on vacation. He'll be back next week. Charlie Parker coming up with Those Were the Days at 6:48. He'll join us in studio as well. And Charity, the world is waiting, and certainly Iran is waiting for a response in the aftermath of that massive missile attack that Iran launched into Israel just 2 nights ago. It was the largest ever attack on Israel. And Israel's UN ambassador, Danny Danon, told CNN the retaliation will be soon. And yet you've got Iran's military chief saying there will be a broader response if Israel launches a response. You just wonder who's going to back down on this as it continues to accelerate.
Yeah, you hope that Israel carries out targeted strikes. I mean, their ultimate goal is to eliminate Hamas and all these other Iran-backed militant groups. But, you know, you're seeing a lot of innocent lives killed in the process. I think there's only already over close to 2,000 people that have been killed, 9,000 wounded in Lebanon. And this is over a course of a year of cross-border fighting that has taken place. But you already have Israel's military saying it's killed 15 Hezbollah militants in South Lebanon yesterday. But on the other hand, Israel said that 8 of its soldiers were killed in ground combat operations in South Lebanon as well.
Yeah, and we're getting reports this morning of an Israeli strike in central Beirut that killed another 6 people. So, the fighting continues. You think about just what's going on with Israel right now, and it's on either side of the country. You know, to the southwest, you've got Gaza and the fight against Hamas. And we just heard the report that 3 senior members of Hamas were killed several weeks ago in an attack, but it was not reported by Hamas. So Israel just released that information, and now you have this other front in Lebanon and Iran, which is to the northeast of Israel. And my God, it is a country under siege. And of course, today, Charity, is October 3rd. We're just 4 days away from the sad, awful 1-year anniversary of October 7th and what happened that day with the brutal, horrific attack on civilians by Hamas on that day that really started all of this just about 1 year ago.
I can't believe it's already coming up on a year. And as we reach that 1-year anniversary, I'm sure We're going to have witnesses, survivors recount the horrors of what they experienced that day. And it's, I think, an important reminder of why Israel is doing what it is and what their ultimate goal is moving forward.
And you wonder if Israel, and I know some countries do this, on an anniversary of a day that was awful, and of course, Israel still engaged with Hamas in Gaza, operations still ongoing. You wonder if Israel might indeed launch something larger this coming October 7th is just kind of a reminder, hey, this is the day you guys started this, and here's something for you guys to think about. I just wonder. It's going to be very interesting, and we'll find out in 4 days.
Yeah, and remember, Netanyahu called the October 7th a year ago their 9/11. So I would not be surprised if they indeed retaliate against Iran on that day.
Yeah, and we talked about it then and subsequently. Proportionately, you look at the population of Israel versus the population of the United States, and you could certainly make that argument that October 7th was indeed Israel's 9/11. All right, lots more coming up. An anonymous NFL poll of NFL players asking them, what do they think of all the Taylor Swift coverage? We'll tell you what that's all about, and we'll get the reaction from our resident Swiftie, Charity McCurdy, coming up. WOAI News Time, 6:16. Yeah, Connie, I was messing with EJ on a technical issue that went wrong on the air. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together, and the NFL players have spoken in an anonymous poll about how they really feel about Taylor Swift. First, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
A newly unsealed court filing from special counsel Jack Smith is offering new evidence in Trump's election interference case. It's day 3 of the dock worker strike, and the panic buying has already begun. And President Biden is visiting Georgia and Florida today to survey hurricane damage. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Weather Channel forecast, mostly sunny today, high in the low 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s. Sunny tomorrow with a high in the mid 90s. Saturday, partly cloudy with a high in the low 90s. Right now, 73 in Alamo Heights, 70 in Leon Valley. It is clear, 72 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's First News. An anonymous survey of NFL players asked them, how do they really feel about Taylor Swift, the coverage she receives with regard to the NFL? Charity, you may find this interesting. The numbers are in. 72.5% of the players surveyed in this anonymous poll think that Taylor Swift's presence at Kansas City Chiefs games has been positive for the league. 72.5% say it's positive. 22.5% don't think it's had an effect either way. And I'm a little surprised, only 4.9% think it's negative for the league. I thought we'd have more haters than that.
Yeah, but at the same time, these are smart players. They know if they say anything negative about the only Taylor Swift, they will feel the wrath of the Swifties. So they don't want to go there. They should have asked a polling question. Are you just annoyed in general about the mention of Taylor Swift? I think that would have gotten a different response.
Yeah, one of the negative, and again, they remained anonymous, these players, but one of the negative voters, an NFL player said, quote, I feel like she is getting unnecessary coverage. There was the whole NFL opening season video on Twitter, and she was featured 5 times, and our quarterback was featured none. That's not even right. She's not in the NFL. So not everybody is digging on the Taylor Swift coverage.
Well, I mean, and there are those that say she brings a lot of eyes to the sport. And, you know, if that ends up increasing the salary cap, these players can't be mad about that. But you have to keep in mind there was only like a small number of NFL players polled, I think like around 100, 102.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that gives an accurate picture of the true feelings about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in the NFL and if I'm an NFL player, I mean, she's the biggest music star currently on the planet. You can make that argument, certainly based on her latest Eras tour. Why not? You know, I mean, go back in the day, and I'm not, again, I think Elvis was bigger and the Beatles were bigger. Don't get me wrong. But if back in the day Elvis was showing up at NFL games or the Beatles were showing up at NFL games, why would you not want that?
Yeah, exactly. And keep in mind, she hasn't been at the last couple of Kansas City Chiefs
Uh-oh.
games, but she's getting ready, I think, for an upcoming Eras show. So
Maybe she's secretly dating Dak Prescott.
Oh,
and she's
stop.
I'm just saying, she hasn't been the last two Chiefs games, nowhere to be found. And Dak seems to be a little distracted lately.
he's a new father.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. He
Okay.
just had a baby girl. So
I'm just saying.
he's distracted for all the right reasons. Yeah.
Okay, my theory could be wrong. I'm just
And what are
putting
you
it out
trying to
there.
say about Taylor Swift,
Well,
Chris?
yeah, I'm just,
All right.
maybe she's had enough of Travis Kelce and his new like Fu Manchu look. Maybe she's not digging it.
I'm sure he was heavily influenced by her opinion. I'm sure she's calling him the shots on that haircut.
You are probably correct. All right. Charity has everything you need to know coming right up at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk more about this dock workers strike that apparently now is spurring panic buying across America. WOAI News Time 627.
6:30 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, new filing released in Trump's election interference case and the death toll climb from Hurricane Helene. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes and mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunny, a high near 93. Tonight's low in the upper 60s. Right now, 71 degrees. U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia, Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in special counsel's Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Here's Fox's Kevin Cork.
Smith argues that the former president's efforts to block the certification of the 2020 election were private acts, not official, and therefore not deserving of presidential immunity. Quote, working with a team of private co-conspirators, the defendant, Mr. Trump, acted as a candidate when he pursued multiple criminal means to disrupt through fraud and deceit the government function by which votes are collected and counted, a function in which the defendant, as president, had no official role. Now, Smith further suggested the former president, knowing that his scheme to coerce then Vice President Pence to do his bidding was over, instead encouraged a mob to react.
And Trump is expected to campaign in Michigan today after making a quiet stop in Houston for a campaign fundraiser. The Houston Chronicle reports Trump attended a private fundraiser at the Tillman Fertitta's Post Oak Hotel yesterday. The event was hosted by some of the state's biggest Republican donors, including Fertitta, Hillcorp Energy Company founder Jeff Hildebrand, and healthcare executive Clive Fields. The fundraiser brought in over $5 million. Meantime, Trump now says he would veto a federal abortion ban in its latest statement on the issue. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern.
The former president committed for the first time to blocking any federal legislation prohibiting abortion in a social media post Tuesday night. Former President Trump writes he does not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it because it's up to the states to decide based on the will of their voters. He has praised the landmark ruling from the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. 3 of the justices who joined that majority opinion were nominated by former President Trump. Polls have consistently shown a majority of voters prefer Vice President Harris on the issue of abortion access. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And Melania Trump is coming out in support of reproductive rights. In her new memoir, Melania, the former First Lady, says she is a passionate supporter of a woman's right to control her own body, including the right to an abortion. The death toll's risen to at least 190 in the Southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene. Areas of North Carolina have been especially hit hard by flooding, with a majority of fatalities counted there and property damage estimated to be in the billions. After surveying damage in the region yesterday, President Biden will head to Georgia and Florida today. Meantime, Vice President Kamala Harris made a visit to Augusta, Georgia yesterday to take a look at the damage, calling it devastating.
There are FEMA personnel who are going door to door to interact personally with folks, especially those who do not have electricity. But also that aid, if you have electricity, can be applied for online. and I encourage people to do that.
And this comes as Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said FEMA can meet the immediate needs of the country, but that it doesn't have enough money to make it through the hurricane season. Well, it's like the pandemic all over again. The port strike is prompting panic buying in Texas grocery stores. Eric Lycum picks up the story.
The port strike is on the east and Gulf Coast, but not the West Coast. Nevertheless, shoppers are finding things like toilet paper wiped off shelves due to panic buyers. CeCe Mora tells News 4.
So we're going to be stocking up on toilet paper, obviously, meds. We're going to be stocking up on laundry detergent. What else? Paper towels.
Most consumer paper products are domestically produced. HEB issued a statement saying in part, quote, "We do not anticipate any customer impact from the port strike at this time. Our team has been working with suppliers for weeks to serve Texans. Most products are not impacted by this strike." Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
United Airlines is getting a pass from the Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA announced yesterday it's finished its safety investigation into the airline without finding any significant flaws. United has been under scrutiny since last spring when it was plagued by safety-related incidents like a stuck rudder and a plane losing a tire upon takeoff. The FAA says it's ending its enhanced oversight of the airline as well. Well, the black high school student in Texas suspended over his hairstyle will now be back in a federal court, hoping he can return to his school. Chris Fox has a story.
18-year-old Daryl George is hoping a federal judge will allow him to return to classes at Barbers Hill High School east of Houston, where he faced suspension last year and this year due to the length of his dreadlocks, a violation of the dress code. His attorney, Allie Booker, says they're hoping for answers from Judge Jeffrey Brown.
Why he did not take up the matter of the temporary restraining order, and also tell me why he's not allowing me to depose Barbers Hill when I have an open case that's running.
They're arguing the dress code is discriminatory. George recently transferred to Sterling High School. In Austin, Chris Fox, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
It's 6:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, a check of your money and the world of business. Ed Corey is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. Thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's first news, Charity McCurdy, Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days, coming up in just a few minutes at 6:48. Charlie will join us in studio a little bit later this morning as well. Mr. T, under the weather and about to go on vacation. He had a planned vacation, which begins tomorrow. So he'll be back with us next week. I'm Chris Duell. And the dock worker strike moves into day number 3. And Charity, we just heard on your newscast, Eric Lycom's report that items such as toilet paper there's a run on them. There's panic buying. We've talked about this morning. That's a little ridiculous because 90% of toilet paper in America is produced either right here domestically or comes from Canada or Mexico. It doesn't come from the docks. Now, I did see, we talked about bananas. 90% of bananas are imported and they come through the ports and they are perishable. So grocery stores don't have a lot of them on hand. But CNN is also reporting other items at risk, Charity, and a couple of them concern me. Here we go. Cherries, cocoa, sugar, and now here come 3 that could bother us. Imported wine, beer, and hard liquor. Imported wine, beer, and hard liquor could be at risk.
And earlier this week, I saw coffee could be affected.
That's right. I drink coffee from Colombia.
Yeah. So this is really going to impact a lot of people in more ways than one. I mean, their ability to function every day. I don't know about you, but I'm addicted to caffeine. I need my coffee.
Coffee in the morning to kind of kickstart us, and then little adult beverage in the evening to kind of, take the edge off after a hard day's work.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're going to have to go local, go to your local brewery, if you need your beer fix.
Ooh, there's that.
So they might see a big boost from this, local breweries.
I wonder, speaking of coffee, obviously Starbucks owns the world in the coffee world. I wonder if a lot of their product to create the coffee is imported and comes from the ports. And I wonder if down the line, if this dock worker strike continued, if a Starbucks would be affected.
I just hope it doesn't get to that point. I want to believe that President Biden would intervene if it, has a severe impact. If this drags on beyond a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I don't think he'd want to let it go for another month. I mean, we're 33 days out from the election. That wouldn't look good for Kamala Harris.
I think that's a big factor here because, Biden telegraphing right now that he would not interfere, but he wants his party to win the election. And I think if this dock worker strike continues, I think the anger among American people would be against the incumbent, the party in office, Biden-Harris at the moment. And, Donald Trump, as we've said, he will say this wouldn't happen if he were president and he could end it in one day. So yeah. I think a prolonged dock worker strike would benefit the Trump campaign.
For sure. And I would expect, again, if this continues into another week, maybe 2, that Biden will invoke that Taft-Hartley Act to suspend the strike to save Kamala Harris's chances on November 5th.
Yeah, a completely different dynamic. But I remember during the Reagan administration where you had the air traffic controllers strike. Now, granted, those were federal employees, but because they were federal employees, he fired them, and they got new air traffic control employees. Completely different thing, but it just shows how something that is affecting the nation in a major way. Completely different, but a similar dynamic on a certain level. The dock workers. Affecting the American way of life, perhaps, that you kind of do look to a president to intervene if they're at an impasse.
Yeah, but I mean, these labor unions know what they're doing. I mean, they've had a successful summer of strikes. You think of the UAW, the Teamsters, the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of TV and Radio. They've had a successful summer in strikes, and these Longshoremen Association knew what they were doing with the timing of this.
Amen. We will. We're asking you on the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app, your thoughts about the dock worker strike. Are you concerned about anything being in short supply? And if you were going to panic buy, what would you panic buy? You can take that wherever you want to take it. We'll listen to your comments coming up. Charlie Parker, moments away with Those Were the Days. WOAI News Time, 6:45. Okay, we got talkbacks coming. And again, I'm sorry you can't hear them on the stream. Kemper, Bob, Eric, Danny, Tab Master, and Mike. Wow. What a lineup. Going to write those down so I know what's going on. Kemper, Bob, Eric, Danny, Tab Master, and Mike. Okay, cool. Yeah, Sleepy. Sleepy says the only thing that would make me panic would be if the stores ran out of beer. The beer I drink is domestic, so no worries here. Yeah. But you got to wonder, imported beer like Heineken, Tecate, Corona. Well, no, Corona could come up through Mexico, not necessarily the ports or Tecate. So it's good. It makes you wonder. Charlie Parker will probably be in here. I haven't seen him yet. I usually see him walk in. He will probably be here by about 7 o'clock. I'll guzzle some more coffee in the meantime. Now that's a church picnic. All the beer you can drink, Sleepy. Praise the Lord. Yeah, those are a lot of talkbacks. I didn't realize we had so many.
Yeah, I try to get them to you before the segment in case other ones like start coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
and I just, yeah, no, I just wanted, if there weren't any, I was going to come up with another topic for.
Well, following nearly 200 deaths from Hurricane Helene, officials say FEMA funding is dwindling fast. Former President Trump will rally in Michigan today as he clarifies his stance on abortion. And there's a run on toilet paper as we enter day 3 of the port workers' strike. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Weather Channel forecast: mostly sunny today, high in the low 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s. Tomorrow, sunny with a high in the mid 90s. Saturday, partly cloudy with a high in the low 90s. Right now, 69 in Cibolo, 70 in Southtown, clear and 71 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's first news. Charity, I heard your news tease there. Again, it just blows my mind. There is a run on toilet paper. My God. And again, my dilemma is, do I be an adult knowing that there's not a reason for this? When I go to HEB after the show, do I just remain calm? Or do I buy a little extra toilet paper because I can't trust my fellow man and wool man? What do I do?
You know, considering you have a 2-person household, I think you're going to be okay with just that one package of toilet paper. And I think before it reaches crisis levels, the president will get involved. You don't mess with an American's toilet paper.
Yeah, and that could affect the election. If we have a toilet paper crisis, I'm voting for the candidate who can guarantee me toilet paper for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, you think politics stinks now. I mean, just wait. Just wait.
Well played, Charity McCurdy. Well played. We have been asking our listeners this morning on the free iHeartRadio app on the Talkback feature, what are your thoughts on this dock worker strike? Are you concerned that any item you need might be in short supply? And what if you were going to panic buy? What would you panic buy? Let's start with one of our favorites. It is Kemper.
Yay.
Here's Kemper. Now that was a great public service announcement from Kemper.
It really is, and she always provides such great insight on the Talkback. So no surprise.
We should play that every hour. Settle down, people. Back to the Talkbacks we go, and Bob. It's true. And that's part of what's fueling this, isn't it, Charity?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's contagious. You don't go in shopping with the mindset that, oh, I'm going to buy all this toilet paper or all these items that I don't necessarily need. But when you see other people and the store shelves cleared out, then the panic sets in on you. Like, oh man, am I missing something? I better get what I can now before everything runs out.
So true. And I wonder how many people who are not locked in on the news like we are, or anybody who listens to news radio in the morning, they know about the dock worker strike. But if you're shopping at an HEB and you keep seeing people go by you with their carts full of toilet paper, I guess you go, uh-oh, and you have a 2020 flashback and you start loading up. I'll bet you that's happening too. Back to the Talkbacks we go, and here is Eric. Hey, Charity, that's a great point. This is another argument for, buying domestically, buying things made in the USA.
Even if it is more expensive. I mean, we need to get back to where, a crisis like this can be averted for Americans if we have everything we need domestically.
More tariffs on any imported toilet paper. We need to just crank those tariffs
Now,
up.
is it quilted? I mean, what level of quality are we talking here?
I personally like a quality toilet. I'm like Mr. Whipple. I like a quality toilet paper in my life experience.
Thickness is good. Yes.
Probably too much information, but hey, that's what we do. Back we go to the talkbacks. Here is Danny. That's so random, but if you like Pop-Tarts, you got to have your Pop-Tarts.
Those are good. Those are good.
I can relate. Let's go to Tab Master. Here he is. True. Nothing worse than a rooster crowing too early in the morning, Charity.
Yeah, and Tapmaster is kind of fueling the panic buying a little bit, with his comments. Stock up on everything, non-perishables now, because you just don't know. And it's true. I mean, you should always have a comfortable supply just in case for any kind of emergency. So, I mean, it is good advice, but that's something you should have done a long time ago. Didn't we learn anything from the pandemic?
Amen to that. All right, lots more coming up. In fact, at 7:10, segment we call Wait Till You Hear This, former President Trump reacting to the latest filing by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. You don't want to miss that. Charity, right now, with everything you need to know on this Thursday morning, WOAI News Time is 7 o'clock.
Seven o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Trump accuses the DOJ of election interference and a not guilty verdict in the case of a 4-year-old boy who starved to death. We'll have details, first traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunshine, a high in the low 90s. Tonight's low near 68. Right now, 71 degrees. A U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia, Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in special counsel Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Here's Fox's Kevin Cork with more.
It's obviously going to prompt further claims of election interference, most likely by the former president. That's because, keep in mind, this is just the federal prosecutor's version of the events that happened post-2020 election in that period leading up to the Capitol riot on January the 6th. Now, its release comes by way of federal trial judge Tanya Chutkan. Her decision coming months after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that former presidents enjoy a great deal of immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts committed while in office. The court had ordered the judge to go over all the charges against Mr. Trump to determine whether he had immunity.
Meantime, Tuesday's vice presidential debate drew in 43 million viewers. Nielsen figures show the age group with the largest viewership was those over the age of 55. A CBS poll found 42% of respondents thought Vance won the debate, while 41% thought Walz won, and 17% said it was a tie. Former President Trump returns to the swing state of Michigan today. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
Former President Trump is set to rally supporters at Saginaw Valley State University. The event marks the GOP presidential nominee's 11th visit to the crucial battleground state this year, with just 33 days until Election Day. His running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, campaigning in Michigan yesterday after his debate against Democratic vice presidential nominee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Vice President Kamala Harris recently visiting the Detroit area for a campaign event hosted by Oprah Winfrey. The vice president assessing Hurricane Helene's devastation, making a stop in Georgia, and she's expected to travel to North Carolina in the coming days. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
And the death toll has risen to at least 190 in the southeast, with hundreds still missing after Helene and its remnants swept through the region. North Carolina Senator Ted Budd says private citizens are stepping up to help.
I saw a group the other day, Operation Airdrop. Private citizens with small airplanes, people who spent their life savings to make the dream come true and be able to fly a small helicopter, are risking themselves, bringing their own personal equipment here and doing rescues.
After surveying the damage in North Carolina yesterday, President Biden will head to Florida and Georgia today, which were also hit by Helene. Many consumers are apparently panic buying goods in the wake of the port strike on the East and Gulf Coast. Here's Fox's Chris DeMeo.
The strike has shut down 36 ports on the East and Gulf Coasts. Half of all U.S. ocean imports flow through these ports, which means consumers may face higher prices and shortages for certain items. But experts say the strike won't affect product lines significantly as it did during COVID when entire production lines were shut down. A Costco store in Arlington, Virginia, that usually is stocked to the ceiling with paper towels and toilet paper, still had its supply at a bit lower than usual level. President Biden reportedly said that a strike would have a limited impact on consumers. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
A San Antonio jury deciding the guilt of a father who was accused of starving his little boy to death reached a verdict after 7 days of testimony and 7 hours of deliberation.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Brandon Savetta, not guilty.
The jury acquitted Cervera in the death of his 4-year-old son, Benji. His stepmother, 25-year-old Miranda Casares, was convicted of serious bodily harm causing death to Benji and is serving a 25-year prison sentence. In August of 2021, Benji was found unresponsive and hospitalized. Staff there then alerted police to the boy's condition. Attorney Tony Busby says he's representing 120 accusers who have claimed sexual misconduct against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Speaking to Fox News, Busby detailed the extent of the events that the misconduct is believed to have taken place.
This wasn't an annual party. This individual allegedly was partying 3 or 4 times a week, and these parties were wild. They were beyond your imagination, and they were nasty.
Busby adds that the victims include 60 males and 60 females, while 25 were minors at the time of the alleged misconduct. One individual says he was 9 years old when he was abused. It is 7:06. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's first news. Charlie Parker joins us in studio right now. You'll hear from him in a moment. Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast joining us at 7:20. His take on the morning's big stories. And coming right up in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This, former President Donald Trump reacts to Special Prosecutor Jack Smith's unsealing of documents yesterday. All that and more. First, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Your Weather Channel 3-day forecast, mostly sunny today, tomorrow, and on Saturday. Low 90s today, around 95 tomorrow. Back into the low 90s again on Saturday. 60 right now in Kerrville, 68 in New Braunfels, 71 in San Antonio. WOAI News Times, 7:10.
That is the voice of Charlie Parker, San Antonio's first news. Along with Charlie, Charity McCurdy, and me, Chris Duell. Mr. T, Tim Merriman, he's been under the weather, but his vacation starts tomorrow. So we expect he'll be back and raring to go midweek next week. Before we go to Wait Till You Hear This, Charlie, just got to check. Are you good on toilet paper?
Oh, yes. I'm always good on toilet paper. Always good on everything.
All right. There could be a run on toilet paper. We hope
I'm
not.
sure there will be. We talked about it the other day. People are going to be stupid, and, you just have to pick and choose your times to go to the store.
This is true. We'll talk more about that coming right up. Right now, though, every weekday morning at this time, we span the globe to bring you the constant variety of audio in a segment or video in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This. As we've been discussing yesterday, Special Prosecutor Jack Smith made a new filing of documents going after Donald Trump in that election dispute case. Yesterday, Donald Trump was in Houston at a private fundraiser hosted by billionaire Tillman Fertitta, and he sat down with News Nation to react to Jack Smith's filing. Let's listen. Former President Donald Trump speaking to News Nation last night in Houston, and more filings by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. Charlie, I asked Charity this question earlier this morning. Do you think anybody voting now is going to be affected by any of this? I think Trump voters don't seem to care, and other voters might think, yes, this prosecution needs to go forward. I just wonder if this new news is going to sway anybody.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody can be. The only people that can be swayed right now are the people who aren't leaning one way or the other. They're just sitting there in the middle going, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And you and I talked about this off air yesterday. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that anyone in this country at this point can be undecided.
That's a good point.
I don't know how you can't know what you're going to do.
Charity?
I think it won't sway the election and voters who are going to vote for their candidate at this point. But you can bet former President Trump, should he lose the election, will point to this moment. The fact that the DOJ kind of violated that unwritten policy of the 60-day rule, where they could try to hold off on any major actions and cases that could potentially impact an upcoming election 60 days or less out.
Well, this will be one, if he loses the election, this will be one of the many things he'll point at.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be fascinating whether he wins or loses, because it's been said if he wins, he would have the power to make this go away, being in charge of the Justice Department. If he loses, is the Justice Department still going to go after him?
Sure.
Going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Justice Department, believe what you want, whether it's they're up to something or they're not up to something. It's immaterial at this point. But if the Justice Department isn't going to start something, that they're not going to finish if they can.
And there's other speculation. If he loses, might Joe Biden on the way out the door say, hey, this guy's a former president. Let's stop this. Let's pardon him for anything on the way Biden goes out the door. I know a lot of people at this moment couldn't believe that could happen, but I think in the same way Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon just so the country could get over that, I think that might do the country a lot of good.
It might do the country a lot of good. I think that anything can, nothing surprises me anymore, but I wouldn't bet money on that happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet money on that either. Mike Opelka coming up from the Pure Opelka podcast. His take on the morning's big stories in just a few. WOAI News Time 7:16. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather, then Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. First, Charity, what stories are you following?
The death toll has risen to at least 190 in the southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene. New details are being released related to former President Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election and a not guilty verdict for the father of a little boy who starved to death. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Mostly sunny today, tomorrow, and on Saturday. Low 90s today, 95 tomorrow, low 90s again on Saturday. Von Ormy right now, 68 degrees. Randolph, 69 degrees. 69 in San Antonio. And WOAI News Time, 7:21.
San Antonio's First News. Every weekday morning at this time, we connect with Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. He's coming to San Antonio on October 24th. We're having an event, OpelkaCon, at La Hacienda de los Barrios. We'll give you more information as that date gets closer. Mike is brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated.
Mike, good morning. Charlie Parker once again on this Thursday morning. I want to start off the beaten path, but something that is available at the Pure Opelka podcast today. United States apparently dropped a bomb on Japan in World War II. Well, that's no surprise. But said bomb exploded yesterday. What's that all about?
All right, let's. I have Mike Opelka up, and for some reason we're not getting him. Mike, can you hear us? And we have a problem with Mike Opelka.
You want me to just make something up?
Yeah, you could.
About why the bomb exploded?
Yeah, you can try that.
Give me a second or two, and I'll come up with something.
All right. I don't know why we don't have Mike Opelka. Here comes EJ.
Here they come
to the rescue
to save the day.
Thank
that
you,
means
EJ.
a Mighty Mouse is on the way.
Yeah, EJ's doing what I was doing, which is push those buttons. I got the level up. And we've lost Mike Opelka.
It happens. He won't do that to us during Opelka time.
He will be all right. He is back. Let's try this again. Mike Opelka, can you hear us?
I hear you, and I was hearing you before, but maybe phones don't work anymore.
Let's go take two. Here's Charlie.
Well, did that have anything to do with the bomb that exploded in Japan yesterday? Maybe that's the problem.
Well, I will tell you, Charlie, after your bomb blows up, you really don't hear anything for a while because the sound concussion is pretty tough. But yeah, that crater that was left by this bomb, massive, shut down runways at this airport. And apparently there are hundreds of unexploded bombs that have been there for decades. And I wonder why we don't see more of this happening. It's got to be scary as all get out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, your thoughts on the new details surrounding Trump's election interference case? You think this will have any bearing on the November election?
I don't think so, Charity. It's going to get a lot of attention from the left side of the mainstream media. Jonathan Turley said it was pretty much more of what we've had before, and that was more of nothing. I kind of agree with Trump. The timing of it, 33 days and a few hours before Election Day, is pretty obvious to me. And I just think it's the same bluster that we heard before, just with more pages.
Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas yesterday said FEMA does not have, didn't say may not have, said does not have enough money to get through the hurricane season. How do these kind of things keep happening?
Well, it irritates me when you think about how much money we spent transporting people on planes into cities around the country that are claiming protected immigrant status. the billions of dollars we spent housing and feeding and educating people who came here. Now, some of them came here with good reasons. A lot of them came here with ill intent. And then to tell American citizens, we don't have enough money to take care of whatever problems arise here. It just means we should expect a bigger tax bill, I guess.
And Mike, we're asking our loved ones a very important question this morning. Are you good on toilet paper? You know, with all the panic buying going on due to the port worker strike, it's nuts out there.
It is. And, you know, I think this is still a little bit of COVID PTSD that we've got. You know, a lot of us are still having flashbacks to that. I just ran out of my COVID supplies last month because, you know, I stocked up bigly when they first talked about it. I'm not kidding you. I have a picture. I'll send a picture next time of my garage. So I've restocked the COVID locker. I think I'm good for at least 6 to 8 months in terms of toilet paper, paper towels, and tissues. I'm good.
Yeah, it's the stuff that everybody always goes after, despite how many times we tell them that there's no need to be doing these things.
Yeah. Well, we're trained to panic now. We're creatures of habit, and I hope we don't have to need it. But in any case, I won't be going to the paper aisle for at least 6 months. So that'll save me a few steps around the grocery store.
There you go.
And another case for having an iPhone, Mike, some of those iPhones, we need to remember they're capable of using satellites, especially for those who were hard hit by Hurricane Helene.
This was amazing. And it's only iPhone 14, 15, and 16, if you're lucky enough to have the newest ones and the newest software. It can send text messages via satellite technology. So kind of an interesting sidebar to a tragedy, but it also is a good reason for you to read the manual or at least watch the video that says, hey, here's what your new phone can do, because you never know when you're going to need it. But kudos to Apple for putting that technology in these phones.
Amen to that. You can get a lot more Mike Opelka from his Pure Opelka podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. We recommend the free iHeartRadio app. Another episode will drop this morning. You want to be sure to go check that out. Mike is brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated. Coming up at 7:40, national correspondent Jason Campadonia, the latest on Israel and when will they strike? When do we think they'll strike back at Iran? WOAI News Time, 7:27.
7:32 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, a new filing released in Trump's election interference case, and the death toll from Helene continues to grow. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunshine, a high of 93. Tonight's low near 68. Right now, 69 degrees. U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia, Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in special counsel Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Fox's Kevin Cork has details.
Smith argues that the former president's efforts to block the certification of the 2020 election were private acts, not official, and therefore not deserving of presidential immunity. Quote, working with a team of private co-conspirators, the defendant, Mr. Trump, acted as a candidate when he pursued multiple criminal means to disrupt through fraud and deceit the government function by which votes are collected and counted, a function in which the defendant, as president, had no official role. Now, Smith further suggested the former president, knowing that his scheme to coerce then Vice President Pence to do his bidding was over, instead encouraged a mob to react.
And Trump is expected to campaign in Michigan today after making a quiet stop in Houston yesterday for a campaign fundraiser. The Houston Chronicle reports Trump attended a private fundraiser at Tillman Fertitta's Post Oak Hotel yesterday. The event was hosted by some of Texas's biggest Republican donors, including Fertitta, Hillcorp Energy Company founder Jeff Hildebrand, and healthcare executive Clive Fields. The event was expected to bring in over $5 million. And Trump now says he'd veto a federal abortion ban in his latest statement on the issue. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern.
The former president committed for the first time to blocking any federal legislation prohibiting abortion in a social media post Tuesday night. Former President Trump writes he does not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it because it's up to the states to decide based on the will of their voters. He has praised the landmark ruling from the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. 3 of the justices who joined that majority opinion were nominated by former President Trump. Polls have consistently shown a majority of voters prefer Vice President Harris on the issue of abortion access. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Meantime, Melania is coming out in support of reproductive rights. In her new memoir, Melania, the former First Lady, says she's a passionate supporter of a woman's right to control her own body, including the right to abortion. The death toll has risen to at least 190 in the Southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene and its remnants swept through the region. Areas of North Carolina have been hit especially hard by flooding, with the majority of fatalities counted there and property damage estimated to be in the billions. After surveying damage yesterday, President Biden will head to Georgia and Florida today. And it's like the pandemic all over again. The port strike is prompting panic buying at Texas grocery stores. Eric Lycum has more.
The port strike is on the east and Gulf Coast, but not the West Coast. Nevertheless, shoppers are finding things like toilet paper wiped off shelves due to panic buyers. CeCe Mora tells News 4.
So we're going to be stocking up on toilet paper, obviously, meds. We're going to be stocking up on laundry detergent. What else? Paper towels.
Most consumer paper products are domestically produced. H-E-B issued a statement saying in part, quote, "We do not anticipate any customer impact from the port strike at this time. Our team has been working with suppliers for weeks to serve Texans. Most products are not impacted by this strike." Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Forbes is out with their annual list of the richest Americans, and 43 people with connections to Texas made the cut. That starts with Elon Musk. He tops the list with a net worth of $244 billion. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who runs a private spaceflight company in West Texas, comes in at number 2, and Spurs co-owner Michael Dell is number 12. The richest San Antonian is HEB's Charles Butt, who's worth a paltry $8.9 billion. Walmart heiress Alice Walton, who graduated from Trinity, is the richest woman in the nation. It is 7:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, to check of your money in the world of business, Ed Corey is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's first news. Charlie Parker in studio. She is Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. Coming up, we will hear more of your talkbacks. Are you concerned about this dock workers strike? Are you concerned about the panic buying? And if you did panic buy, what would you panic buy? But first, let's check in with national correspondent Jason Campadonia, who is covering what's going on in the Middle East with regard to Israel and now Iran after that strike a couple of nights ago by Iran on Israel. Jason, what is the latest from Israel and any idea when they are going to retaliate?
Well, right now we know that Israeli forces are engaging in some fighting on the ground with Hezbollah fighters in southern Lebanon. That's happening as we speak. That comes after about 200 ballistic missiles were fired at Israel earlier this week. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that Iran made a big mistake by sending those missiles over, and the country, quote, will pay. Now, right now, we don't know exactly what will pay means, but military leaders across the globe are watching oil infrastructure and nuclear infrastructure in that part of the world. President Biden and G7 leaders are expected to have a conference call later today. It's expected that they're going to send out a sternly worded statement calling for yet another ceasefire. But as you and I both know, the ceasefires or the calls for a ceasefire have yet to work.
And Jason, with the 1 year anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack coming up, you got to wonder if Israel will time its response to Iran to send a powerful message.
You know, Netanyahu likes to work that way. And I think that's a really great point. And along with the October 7th anniversary of the attacks, we are seeing police presence getting beefed up in some of the Jewish communities across the country in the United States. It's also Rosh Hashanah, so it's the Jewish New Year. There's a lot going on and a lot tied to the next couple of days here. So it's a very tense situation right now. But again, President Biden going to send out some sort of, statement condemning the violence in the area.
Our thanks to national correspondent Jason Campadonia. And Charity brings up a great point. We're 4 days away from October 7th, which is the anniversary of that horrible Hamas attack on Israeli civilians that really fueled where we are now at a worse point in the Middle East. Will Israel strike on that day to make even more of a point, or perhaps even will people who hate Israel commemorate that day by doing something horrible to Israelis?
Does it matter what the day is? I mean, what I'm just guessing. I don't know how wars work.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what wars do, but I don't know how they work or how you plan them out. But I don't know what October 7th would do.
Well, I know
It's the
symbolically
bombs that do the damage.
Correct. But I know symbolically, for example, Vladimir Putin, there are certain days, I know anniversaries with the conflict with Ukraine, that to make a statement, if it was an anniversary of the start of that war or an anniversary of something that Ukraine did, I know there are certain leaders in certain countries that will like to make a point by commemorating that day by being more aggressive and kill more people that way.
I guess it's possible. If it were me, I would have done it yesterday. Instead of giving him, time to think about the process of, maybe it's coming October 7th. Maybe it's next Monday. Who knows? I'd have done it yesterday.
Yeah. Scary prospect, Charity.
Yeah, and you wonder what kind of attack Israel's going to respond with. Will it be nuclear sites? Will it be on those oil facilities? And what will be the ripple effects? I mean, Iran is a major OPEC producing nation. I imagine gas prices would spike if that happened. So there's a lot to think about. And you wonder how much and to what extent the U.S. is involved in that decision-making process.
And I keep thinking about Russia and China. If Israel attacked Iran to such an extent that it was devastating to Iran and their nuclear facilities, I know China and Russia are probably quite happy to have us brought into a conflict and to be at odds with Iran. So, yeah, if they're looking to destabilize, who knows? I mean, this thing, and you look at just history, you look at how world wars began. One of them began with the assassination of an Archduke, Franz Ferdinand. I mean, crazy things can start world wars. Charlie, you and I were talking about this off the air yesterday. Human nature, we feel like we're in the 21st century now, so we're better than human beings were generations ago. Human beings still do the same stuff. They murder, they pillage, they go to war, they fight. I just don't think as human beings, overall, that we've evolved that much over time.
Well, let's hope that it doesn't escalate to the point to where one of them is nuts enough.
Yeah.
Putin, we know, is to use nuclear weapons because you've got no alternative but to retaliate the same way.
Yeah. Scary, scary stuff. Lots more coming up. We're going to hear from you, your talkbacks on this run on toilet paper in the aftermath of what is it continuing to be this dock workers strike, day number 3 now. That and a whole lot more coming up. WOAI News Time, 746. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather, we're going to hear from you about panic buying that is setting in across the country and even locally. First, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you tracking?
Well, new details unveiled in Donald Trump's election interference case, and the strike by U.S. dock workers appears to be prompting some panic buying. And the postseason is over for the Houston Astros. We'll have more right now, traffic and weather.
Sunny 93 today, sunny 95 tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine on Saturday, high around 90. Floresville right now 67, Seguin 66, 69 in San Antonio. WOAI News Time 7:52.
San Antonio's first news, Charlie Parker. And programming note, coming up in the next hour, we'll get Parker's picks, among other things, for the weekend college football picks. A big 8 o'clock hour, national correspondent Aaron Real at 8:10 on the dock workers strike. They're not only striking because of the money. There's another reason. She'll tell us what it is. White House correspondent John Decker joining us at 8:20. The latest on Decision 2024. Joe Pags with a preview of the Joe Pags Show as well. But right now, we're going to hear from you on the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. We've been asking you about panic buying with this dock workers strike. Lots of people are panic buying across the country, including toilet paper, which is ridiculous if you realize that toilet paper, 90% of it comes from here, or Mexico or Canada. It doesn't go through the docks, so there's no reason to hoard it. Some people are doing it anyway. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app and listen in. Here is Mike.
Yeah, but what do you dry with? I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it raises all sorts of questions.
Everybody's got a blow dryer in their bathroom.
A bidet and a blow dryer.
Blow dryer, that's all you need.
That might be.
Wow. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
That's a helpful hint. Let's get another one. Let's listen to Michael. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I think he's got all of his bases covered there.
Well, I'm not sure I agree that everything's going to be all right. But just do a little bit of research and know, as you point out, don't go be buying up stuff that there's not going to be any shortage of.
In 2020, Charlie, when everybody was panic buying and the toilet paper aisles were empty at the HEBs, did you stock up on anything? Have you ever stocked up and panic bought things?
No, not consciously. No.
Not even adult beverages or chips and salsa?
No.
Just checking. Let's do one more. Let's listen to Johnny. Here's Johnny. Well, and Charlie, ironically, you and I were just talking about a third world war.
Yeah.
And an economic collapse is always a possibility as well.
Well, you better hope that you've got like a shelter. You know, you need that before you start,
Yeah.
where you're going to put all that stuff that you're going to buy. You know, my pantry and refrigerator are full. I don't have room for panic buying.
Charity, do you have a shelter, and are you stocked up in case of the apocalypse?
My shelter is my home. And, I did buy some of that food that lasts 25 years during the pandemic. It's like in a bunch of bins in a special room. And I'm holding on to that just because you never know. It, I think, provides like maybe a week's supply of food. I just think everybody should have that in case of an emergency. Hopefully not World War III or an economic collapse, but you just never know.
Must not be very good stuff. You're 5 years in now to something that's going to last 25 and you still have it.
When you're hungry, Charlie, you'll eat it.
Okay. So you're not hungry yet.
Not yet. No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Let's hope you never have to eat it. Let's hope we stay with the
I'd
fresh.
like to know what it is.
Oh, I think it has like mac and cheese. It has some like freeze dried vegetables, rice. It's a combination. They tried to make it interesting so you weren't eating the same thing every day, but man, it cost at least like $500.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're to the point to where you're having to eat stuff that's made to last 25 years, the concern is that you don't eat the same thing every day.
It's not my concern, but I appreciate the effort.
All right. Tell you what, we'll learn more about this dock worker strike coming right up at 8:10 from Aaron Real. White House correspondent John Decker and Parker's Picks coming up in the next hour as well. WOAI News Time, 7:58.
8 o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, Trump accuses the DOJ of election interference and a not guilty verdict in the case of a 4-year-old boy who starved to death. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunshine, a high in the low 90s. Tonight's low near 68. Get a move on. It is 69 degrees. A newly unsealed court filing from special counsel Jack Smith is offering new evidence in the landmark criminal case against former President Trump, in which he's accused of having a hand in attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Here's Fox's Brooke Seaman.
Judge Tanya Chutkan unsealed Smith's 165-page filing in which he lays out the alleged evidence he intends to use in an eventual trial against former President Trump. The Justice Department has an unwritten policy referred to as the 60-day rule, which often prevents major actions in cases that could impact election results in the 60 days leading up to Election Day. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court ruled that presidents and former presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts, requiring special counsel Smith to file another indictment against Trump to navigate that ruling. But Smith argues, quote, none of the allegations or evidence is protected by presidential immunity, and alleges that this was a, quote, private scheme. Brooke Singman, Fox News.
And today, Trump heads to the swing state of Michigan, where he's likely to bring up the topic. Tuesday's vice presidential debate drew in 43 million viewers. Nielsen figures show viewers tuned in across 15 different networks to watch the debate, hosted by CBS. The age group with the largest viewership was those over the age of 55, and a CBS poll found 42% thought Vance won the debate, while 41% thought Walz won, and 17% said it was a tie. Well, the death toll has risen to at least 190 in the Southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene and its remnants swept through the region. North Carolina Senator Ted Budd says private citizens are the ones stepping up.
I saw a group the other day, Operation Airdrop. Private citizens with small airplanes, people who spent their life savings to make the dream come true and be able to fly a small helicopter, are risking themselves, bringing their own personal equipment here and doing rescues.
Speaking from Raleigh, North Carolina, President Biden said politics should not divide Americans seeking help.
In a moment like this, we put politics aside. At least we should put it all aside. We have here. There are no Democrats or Republicans, only Americans. And our job is to help as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, and as thoroughly as we can.
After surveying damage in North Carolina yesterday, Biden will head to Florida and Georgia today. Many consumers are apparently panic buying goods in the wake of the port strike on the East and Gulf Coast. Here's Fox's Chris DeMeo.
The strike has shut down 36 ports on the East and Gulf coasts. Half of all U.S. ocean imports flow through these ports, which means consumers may face higher prices and shortages for certain items. But experts say the strike won't affect product lines significantly as it did during COVID when entire production lines were shut down. A Costco store in Arlington, Virginia, that usually is stocked to the ceiling with paper towels and toilet paper, still had its supply at a bit lower than usual level. President Biden reportedly said that a strike would have a limited impact on consumers. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
A San Antonio jury deciding the guilt of a father who was accused of starving his little boy to death reached a verdict after 7 days of testimony and 7 hours of deliberating.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Brandon Cervera, not guilty.
The jury acquitted Brandon Cervera in the death of his 4-year-old son, Benji. His stepmother, 25-year-old Miranda Casares, was convicted of serious bodily harm causing death to Benji and is serving 25 years in prison. In August of 2021, Benji was found unresponsive and was hospitalized. Staff there then alerted police to the boy's condition. Israel has announced the death of 3 senior members of Hamas. Fox's Jonathan Savage has the latest.
The Israeli military says Rawi Mushta was head of the Hamas government in Gaza and that he and 2 security commanders were killed in airstrikes 3 months ago. The Israeli Defense Forces say they were hiding in an underground compound in northern Gaza when they died, but that Hamas didn't make this public to prevent a loss of morale. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard say Israel has killed one of its consultants working in Syria. Majid Davani suffered injuries in an airstrike on Damascus on Monday. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
Well, the Houston Astros' hopes for a deep postseason run are over. Yesterday, Houston fell in a 5-2 defeat to the Detroit Tigers in Game 2 of the AL Wildcard Series. Here's Astros third baseman Alex Bregman.
Been fortunate enough to win a lot here over the last 9 years, and it's been an honor to play in front of these fans and compete for the city.
Despite Houston's postseason run cut short, the Astros wrapped up their regular season with their 4th consecutive American League West title. It is 8:07, news at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's first news. We have got a big 8 o'clock hour for you in a few moments. National correspondent Erin Real is going to tell us that the dock workers strike isn't just about the money. She'll explain that. 8:20, White House correspondent John Decker on Decision 2024. Donald Trump now says he'll veto any federal ban on abortion. How might that affect the race? Charlie Parker with Parker's Picks and more, and Joe Pags with a preview of the Joe Pags Show coming up. But first, your traffic and weather together.
Sunny today, high around 93, 94 degrees at 62 right now in Kerrville, 70 in Monte Vista, 69 in San Antonio. WOAI News Time, 8:11.
San Antonio's first news, that is Charlie Parker. She's a Charity McCurdy. And right now, with more on the dock worker strike, here's national correspondent Aaron Real.
And Aaron.
Hello. Yes, dock workers. Go ahead, please.
Aaron, I just wanted to ask you really quickly, obviously a lot of the dock workers want more pay. We talked about this recently since we're in day 3 of the strike, but it's not just about the money. They're wanting to ban automation, which kind of seems like a big ask. You think they're going to get their way?
Oh, it's going to be a hard one. It's tough to fend off the future forever. And they did want that big wage bump to 77%. The organization, the Alliance, the U.S. Maritime Alliance, that's repping the ports and the ocean carriers, offered 50% raises. Not enough. But what they really don't want, and what we have a quote from Harold Daggett, the head of the Longshoremen's Association, he said, quote, "We want absolutely airtight language that there will be no automation or semi-automation." This is a difficult one to square. And there's a way to do it in the sense that you can have contract provisions that offer workers some sort of compensation so they either don't lose their job or they guarantee retraining on other kinds of jobs that the new tech creates or some kind of compensation. But to simply say this is a non-starter, we're not going to move forward, that's difficult when you're, after weeks, if this goes on weeks, holding the entire U.S. economy hostage because you don't like automation. You're going to lose support. And right now, unions are experiencing a lot of support.
We already know about the panic buying that's going on, people buying stuff that there's no need for them to go out and buy. But what products should we be concerned may not be readily available as we move forward?
Perishable items, the bananas, the fruits, the vegetables, things of that nature that come from overseas for the most part, that's the first that we're going to see shortages of. Not the toilet paper, friends. I'm going to use this opportunity to say I don't know why we as humans, whenever times of strife present themselves, go buy toilet paper. If it was truly the end of days, this is not what you need. Soap and water will do just fine. But for whatever reason, we panic buy toilet paper. And fun fact, 90% of the paper products in the U.S. are made in the U.S. or Mexico. So it's not going to be a problem. Like, your toilet paper will be fine. If there's any shortages, it's because people are panic buying a really silly product to panic buy. But the perishable items, those will be the first that will actually be in short supply. Then it will be things like the auto industry, coal industry, agriculture. And let me give you an example. Like, if the rear view mirrors for GM come from overseas and those are sitting in a freight container at a dock in, let's say, Virginia, that ends up ultimately hitting the supply chain for auto manufacturers, and that ends up slowing down cars. So that's if this carries on weeks and weeks and weeks. But in the short term, perishable items will be the first to see. And then retailers have done a pretty good job of stocking up prior to this. They knew this was coming, but the things you see for seasonal items at like a Walmart or a Target, those will be the next that you'll probably see less of.
Our thanks to national correspondent Aaron Real. Coming up, White House correspondent John Decker. Donald Trump announcing he'll veto any federal law banning abortion. How might this affect the race? That and more coming up. WOAI News Time, 8:14. Donald Trump makes an announcement that could impact the 2024 election. We'll talk about that with White House correspondent John Decker coming right up. A little bit later, Charlie Parker will make his weekend college football picks and more. And we'll also get a preview from Joe Pags on the Joe Pags Show. He has one of the Trumps on his show this afternoon. We'll find out which one. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
A newly unsealed court filing from special counsel Jack Smith is offering new evidence in Trump's election interference case. It's day 3 of the dock worker strike, and the panic buying has already begun. And President Biden is visiting Georgia and Florida today to survey Hurricane Helene damage. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Plenty of sunshine today through the weekend. Look for highs in the low to mid 90s. 68 right now in China Grove. 66 at Zooks in Castroville. San Antonio, 69 degrees. WOAI News Time, 8:19.
San Antonio's first news. Charlie, I got to ask you, what is Zooks in Castroville? Is that a bar?
Meat market.
Meat market.
Meat market. Oh, yeah.
Zooks in Castroville. Very, very nice. Coming up, we will check in with White House correspondent John Decker. We'll get the latest from him. He is moments away from connecting with us. We do believe a huge issue in this 2024 election, according to many analysts, will be Roe versus Wade, the overturning of it by the United States Supreme Court, in large part due to the appointees that were appointed to the Supreme Court when Donald Trump was president. Now, former President Trump is apparently saying that he would veto any federal ban on abortion. How might that impact the race? Let's talk about it with White House correspondent John Decker. John, when did Donald Trump make this announcement, and talk to us about its significance?
Well, he made the announcement within the past 24 hours on social media. And I think that anything that is said, anything that is done by a candidate with a little over a month to go until Election Day must be seen through the political prism. You know, why are you doing this now? And I think the reason why Donald Trump is doing this now is because you look at poll after poll, whether it's a national poll or whether it is a state poll in a battleground state, you will notice there is a huge gender gap. And Donald Trump would very much like to narrow that gender gap that exists right now. He's not doing well with women voters overall. And perhaps this is a way of narrowing that gender gap that we see right now.
John, this was a point of contention between Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. And if Vance wasn't initially clear on where his boss stood, it's understandable that his supporters might be too.
Well, that's right. You remember, Charity, just a few weeks ago in Philadelphia, Donald Trump was asked a question about this very issue. The questioner said to Donald Trump, your running mate says that you would veto a federal ban on abortion if that type of legislation came before you if you're president. And Donald Trump's response to that question was, J.D. Vance does not speak for me, and J.D. Vance did not discuss this with me. And now he's come around to the same exact position that J.D. Vance enunciated just a few weeks ago. This is one of those issues which is an unknown. It's an unknown in the sense that we know that the issue of abortion in the midterm elections really energized Democratic voters. And the unknown is, does it energize Democratic voters once again for the presidential election.
And I got to believe, John, in what is perceived to be a very, very tight election 33 days from now. We hear so much from the Democrats that if Donald Trump regains the White House, that a federal abortion ban is inevitable. For people who might be on the fence, and that's one of their big issues, for Donald Trump to say this before the election strategically, I think it's probably a smart move for him if he wants to win some of those votes.
Well, if you are someone who is out there, I can't speak for everybody, but I think in general terms, if you're someone out there for whom reproductive rights is an important issue, I don't think you're likely to vote for Donald Trump in the first place. You're likely to vote for someone who has made it a part of her campaign, that's Kamala Harris, that she will not only protect reproductive rights, but work to enshrine the rights that were entailed in Roe versus Wade, make that part of federal law. So to me, I think it exposes to a certain extent what internal polling may show in the Trump campaign about how this issue of abortion may be impacting Donald Trump's standing in certain battleground states.
And John, interesting that Melania Trump has now come out in support of abortion in her new book. Could that potentially cause problems for Trump in this final stretch?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. Donald Trump's positions that he's held on the issue of abortion have obviously pleased Christian conservatives within his party. They are pleased that he was able to name 3 justices to the U.S. Supreme Court. This move towards, I guess you could argue, is a more pro-choice position, pro-reproductive rights position, I don't think will please those who were very excited by the fact that Donald Trump was able to name 3 justices to the U.S. Supreme Court, creating that super conservative majority that overturned Roe versus Wade with the Dobbs decision.
He is a big part of our Decision 2024 coverage. White House correspondent and attorney John Decker. Charity McCurdy has everything you need to know on this Thursday at the bottom of the hour. Then Charlie Parker with Parker's Picks and more. We'll also check in with Joe Pags of The Joe Pags Show. He has one of the Trumps on his show this afternoon. He will tell us who it is and what they will be talking about. WOAI News Time, 8:25.
8:30 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Thursday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, a new filing released in Trump's election interference case, and the death toll climbs from Hurricane Helene. We'll have more right now. Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Thursday: sunny, a high of 93. Tonight's low in the upper 60s. Right now, we are at 70 degrees. U.S. District Judge for the D.C., Tanya Chutkan, unsealed a filing in special counsel Jack Smith's election case against former President Trump. Fox's Kevin Cork has details.
Smith argues that the former president's efforts to block the certification of the 2020 election were private acts, not official, and therefore not deserving of presidential immunity. Quote, working with a team of private co-conspirators, the defendant, Mr. Trump, acted as a candidate when he pursued multiple criminal means to disrupt through fraud and deceit the government function by which votes are collected and counted, a function in which the defendant, as president, had no official role. Now, Smith further suggested the former president, knowing that his scheme to coerce then Vice President Pence to do his bidding was over, instead encouraged a mob to react.
And Trump is expected to campaign in Michigan today after making a quiet stop in Houston for a campaign fundraiser. The Houston Chronicle reports Trump attended a private fundraiser at Tillman Fertitta's Post Oak Hotel. The event was hosted by some of Texas's biggest Republican donors, including Fertitta, Hillcorp Energy Company founder Jeff Hildebrand, and healthcare executive Clive Fields. The event was expected to raise over $5 million. Meantime, Trump now says he'd veto a federal abortion ban in his latest statement on the issue. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern.
The former president committed for the first time to blocking any federal legislation prohibiting abortion in a social media post Tuesday night. Former President Trump writes he does not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it because it's up to the states to decide based on the will of their voters. He has praised the landmark ruling from the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. 3 of the justices who joined that majority opinion were nominated by former President Trump. Polls have consistently shown a majority of voters prefer Vice President Harris on the issue of abortion access. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And Melania Trump is coming out in support of abortion. In her new memoir, Melania, the former First Lady, says she is a passionate supporter of a woman's right to control her own body, including the right to abortion. The death toll has risen to at least 190 in the Southeast, with hundreds still missing after Hurricane Helene and its remnants swept through the region. After surveying damage in North Carolina yesterday, President Biden will head to Georgia and Florida today. And Vice President Kamala Harris made a visit to Augusta, Georgia yesterday to survey damage, and she called it devastating.
There are FEMA personnel who are going door to door to interact personally with folks, especially those who do not have electricity, but also that aid, if you have electricity, can be applied for online. And I encourage people to do that.
And this comes as Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said FEMA can meet the immediate needs of the country, but that it doesn't have enough money to make it through the hurricane season. It's like the pandemic all over again. The port strike is prompting panic buying at Texas grocery stores. Eric Lycum explains.
The port strike is on the east and Gulf Coast, but not the West Coast. Nevertheless, shoppers are finding things like toilet paper wiped off shelves due to panic buyers. CC Mora tells News 4.
So we're going to be stocking up on toilet paper, obviously, meds. We're going to be stocking up on laundry detergent, what else? Paper towels.
Most consumer paper products are domestically produced. HEB issued a statement saying in part, quote, "We do not anticipate any customer impact from the port strike at this time. Our team has been working with suppliers for weeks to serve Texans. Most products are not impacted by this strike." Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Attorney Tony Busby says he's representing 120 accusers who have claimed sexual misconduct against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Speaking to Fox News, Busby says there are many people involved.
What really irks me are those who profited off of this culture that was created and that just essentially ruined hundreds of lives.
Busby adds that the victims include 60 males, 60 females, while 25 were minors at the time of the alleged misconduct. One individual says he was 9 years old when he was abused. Texas has already banned transgender people from changing the gender on their driver's license. Now there's a plan to make that retroactive.
That would obviously be horrendous. It would be a nightmare for trans people across the state.
Jonathan Gooch with Equality Texas says the state's Republican leadership is hell-bent on making life difficult for transgender people. The head of DPS sent a letter to State Attorney General asking if the agency can fix old errors. He wants to send old driver's licenses back to transgender people with an order to destroy their new one. While the Houston Astros' hopes for a deep postseason run are over. Yesterday, Houston fell in a 5-2 defeat to the Detroit Tigers in Game 2 of the AL Wildcard Series. Here's Astros third baseman Alex Bregman.
Been fortunate to win a lot here over the last 9 years, and it's been an honor to play in front of these fans and compete for the city.
Despite Houston's postseason run cut short, the Astros wrapped up their regular season with their fourth consecutive American League West title. It is 8:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, to check of your money and the world of business, Ed Corey is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's first news. Charlie Parker in studio, Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. And Parker's picks are on the way. But, Charlie, it has been since 2016 the last time the Houston Astros were not in the American League Championship Series. And as we know, they will not be there this year.
Yeah, they lose yesterday to Detroit. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. I think a lot of us wished it went a different way, but it's not surprising. Tigers, Royals, Padres. There are 4 series in the wild card. Tigers, Royals, Padres all advance with sweeps. We'll find out tonight who else advances to the league divisional series this Saturday when the Mets take on the Brewers at 6 o'clock. I think moving forward, at least today, I might change my mind by lunch. I think I'm going to pull for the Yankees and the Phillies. I know I'm not pulling for the Dodgers.
Oh, nor am I. I don't like the Dodgers.
NFL action, Thursday night football tonight, Tampa Bay at Atlanta. That's a divisional matchup. Should be a pretty good one. Coming up on Sunday, the Texans are hosting the Bills. The Cowboys are at the Steelers on Sunday night. Browns are at Washington. We'll get another glimpse and find out whether the Commanders are for real. Giants are at Seattle, and the Eagles have a bye. Sunday morning, there's an 8:30 NFL game from London, Jets and Vikings. Moving to college football, UTSA has a bye. Texas has a bye. There's some okay matchups going on this weekend. Number 9, Mississippi, Ole Miss, is at that's Missouri. I abbreviated and confused myself. Number 9, Missouri is at number 25, Texas A&M. Navy's at Air Force.
All right, go Air Force.
Yeah, but that's not going to be my pick.
No.
But
Navy's really good.
I don't care if I miss that one.
Navy's undefeated, I think.
Yeah, they are undefeated. Army is at Tulsa. Number 1, Alabama's at Vanderbilt. Auburn is at number 5, Georgia. Good luck, Tigers. Number 10, Michigan is at Washington. That's an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
Washington is favored in that game. And we'll find out if the things continue to go wrong for the Florida State Seminoles. They are at home, but they're taking on number 15, Clemson. I think they go to like 1-5. Wow. 1-4, 1-5 if they lose that game.
They were expected to be.
And it's a team that was undefeated last year.
Yeah.
And complaining because they didn't get into the playoffs. And, well, what have you shown me lately? All right, I went 3-0 last week.
Woo!
I had K-State over Oklahoma State. I had East Carolina beating UTSA. And I had Alabama knocking off Georgia. So I went 3-0.
And I wagged a finger at you for picking against UTSA, and you were right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am now 11-4, 7 games over 500 headed into this weekend. Here are Parker's picks. I'm taking Navy over Air Force, even though it's being played in Colorado Springs. I'm going to take number 10, Michigan, to win on the road at Washington, despite the fact Washington's the favorite. And Texas A&M is the favorite against Missouri, but I'm going to take the 9th-ranked Tigers to knock off the Aggies in College Station on Saturday.
Which I think is a good pick. A&M, for so many years, it seems, in a big game, they disappoint. They've had a very good football team for several seasons, but like earlier this year, Notre Dame at A&M, I think on opening day for A&M. You thought, okay, A&M's at home, that gigantic stadium, they're going to beat Notre Dame. Nope. I'm with you. I think Missouri will beat A&M.
Well, they've had injuries, particularly, hard word to say, at quarterback. But their number 1 quarterback is supposed to be back this Saturday. But I'm still going to take the Tigers.
Looking ahead to Sunday night, Cowboys. And by the way, Parker's picks will be posted at WOAI.com. If you're in your car and if you want to double check them, you missed them, we'll have them on WOAI.com. Cowboys at Steelers on Sunday night. I am not confident. I got a bad feeling about that game.
I have a bad feeling about that game as well.
Devontae Adams theoretically wants out of Las Vegas, the Raiders.
And he'll eventually, probably sooner than later, be gone.
Should the Cowboys? I mean, CeeDee
I don't think
Lamb,
they have the money. I don't think they have the money. The part about giving them a second-round pick for Devontae Adams, Hell, I'll go, open up the taco place at his house for him if he needs somebody. What's that taco? Taco Bell?
I think Taco
Right,
Bell.
Taco Bell.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if the Cowboys lose to the Steelers, does Mike McCarthy keep his job?
Yes,
Wow.
but not for long, because things aren't going very well for anybody other than Washington.
Yeah.
In the NFC East, so he'll be okay for another week.
But Charity, you even mentioned not long ago the Cowboys' schedule. It's the next several weeks. It's going to be tough. So if McCarthy's not gone this week, if they lose, that could still be coming.
And it depends on how you can lose as long as you play well. But I haven't seen Dallas play well yet.
If they lose against the Lions, wow.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a surprise to anybody in football, I don't think.
But that's part of the Lions, 49ers, Eagles coming up. Steelers are very good. It's going to be a tough run right here.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, coming up, Joe Pags has one of the Trumps on his show this afternoon. He'll tell us which one and what they're going to be talking about. We'll get you caught up on headlines, traffic, weather, and more. WOAI News Time, 8:47. Coming up, Joe Pags previews his show this afternoon. First, Charity, what stories are you following?
Following nearly 200 deaths from Hurricane Helene, officials say FEMA funding is dwindling fast. Former President Trump will rally in Michigan today as he clarifies his stance on abortion. And there's a run on toilet paper as we enter day 3 of the port worker strike. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Mostly sunny today, high around 93 degrees, 69 in San Antonio right now. WOAI News Time, 8:53.
San Antonio's first news. Let's check in with Joe Pags of the Joe Pags Show. Today, he'll have more on the vice presidential debate aftermath, plus a big guest. Good morning, Joe. You too, Joe, 5 to 8 p.m. today and every weekday for the Joe Pags Show. Charlie Parker, as we disperse here after the show, are you headed to HEB to buy a bunch of toilet paper?
No, I'm going home to pick up on my streaming and watch Fight Night on
Fight
Peacock.
Night.
Yeah.
Very nice. I did watch last night, the episode 9. There's only one left of Bad Monkey on Apple TV Plus. Once again, Bad Monkey does not disappoint.
No, my wife's up to date. I'm still 2 episodes behind.
It's so good.
And I've been watching Netflix's Mr. McMahon, which is actually pretty interesting. I mean, if it features the Hulk, how can it not be interesting? You know,
Because it has Vince McMahon.
it's really interesting how he pretty much like bought up the whole wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He
it's
ruined
genius.
wrestling.
Well, I mean, he violated territories, that's for sure.
I'm going to have to check that out. I haven't seen Mr. McMahon yet.
Uh-huh.
As soon as I finish Bad Monkey, that'll be next on my list. Very, very nice. Well, Charity, I am going to an HEB after the show. I'm going to go look at the toilet paper aisle.
Just to see?
Yeah, just to see if I need to.
Yeah.
I'll take a photo for social media if it's all wiped out.
Will you be bringing your surgical gloves?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
just
I
making
may
sure.
even wear a mask,
Okay.
especially in the toilet paper area. Makes no sense, but I rarely make sense,
Oh.
Charity. You know that. You work with me.
And this is why we love you.
Yes. Thanks to EJ Pacheco and Andrew Zimmel for doing the heavy lifting. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. We have Glenn Beck coming right up. Before that, Charity with all the stories you need to know about on this Thursday morning. Right now, your Sean Hannity Morning Minute, WOAI News Time, 8:56.